I'm currently staying in what is statistically the safest city in the world. And no, it's definitely not London. It's not New York. It's not Paris. It's in the Middle East. For those of you who've been to the region, you've probably guessed it. I'm in Abu Dhabi. And right now, the United Arab Emirates is the statistically safest country in the world. It's not Iceland. It's not Switzerland. It's the UAE. In fact, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia are all rated as safer countries than pretty much all of Western Europe. Even Thailand and Vietnam, which most Westerners assume are developing and risky, have a lower crime rate than Sweden, Germany, Italy, UK, and the USA. These aren't just opinions. These aren't cherry-picked statistics of some obscure blog. This is data from the world's leading safety indices released in January this year, just last month. I'm Alexander. I'm the founder of Rumavi, a chartered accountant. I live in Singapore myself, and I have lived and invested across 7 different countries myself. I've also had the misfortune of having my car broken into in Chicago, having someone try and smash a bottle over my head in London, having someone try and steal my motorbike, having my car broken into, having basically every single person I know be mugged, held at knife point or gunpoint at some point in London. None of that has ever happened to me in Singapore, never happened to me in Abu Dhabi, never happened to me in Dubai. In fact, it's never happened to me in anywhere in Southeast Asia. But here's the thing that bugs me. In major cities in the West like London and Paris and New York, we have just normalized violent crime. We shrug off a knife crime in London as if it's just a fact of living in a big city. And we treat mugging and theft as just an unfortunate cost and almost like a tax of living in these countries. And here's the thing that bugs me. It is not normal. I was just talking to some friends of mine here in Abu Dhabi who come from Jakarta and Manila, which we generally do not perceive in the West as being safe cities. I asked them, how many of your friends have been robbed, held at knife point, or had their homes broken into or cars stolen in the cities and you live in, Jakarta and Manila? And their answer was about 10%. So they asked me about London. And I said, well, basically about 100%. Oh, I couldn't actually think of a single person that I know that hasn't at some point been robbed, mugged, had their car broken into, or some kind of crime committed against them. So before I throw some numbers at you, let's establish some credibility. What I want to talk about is what's called the Global Peace Index. Now, it's published annually by the Institute of Economics and Peace, and this is generally considered the gold standard for measuring systematic peace. It ranks 163 countries across 23 indicators: violent crime, political instability, weapons access, incarceration, and military expenditure. Lower score means more peaceful. So Iceland, for example, has held the top spot for the past 17 years. Basically, it measures how stable is the society and how likely is a conflict. Let's face it, no one's going to war with Iceland anytime soon. Fingers crossed. Source 2 is the Numbeo Crime Index. Now, this is different. This is the largest crowdsourced database of quality of life information of millions of real people, actual residents reporting their experiences, crime, safety, etc. If you want to put it in simple terms, where do people feel safest walking around their streets at home? But here's what's interesting. These 2 indices measure 2 different things: macro stability versus street level reality. And where they align, that is something powerful. And right now, they're both pointing in the same direction, and it's not towards New York, San Francisco, or London. So just looking at the micro level, let's look at the Numbeo Crime Index. Number 1, safest country in the world, United Arab Emirates. Number 2, Qatar. Number 3, Andorra. So that is in Europe, but granted a very small place. Number 4, Taiwan. Number 5, Macau. Number 6, Oman. Number 7, Isle of Man. Number 8, Hong Kong. 9 is Armenia, and 10 is Bahrain. Now, if you expand this a little bit, 11 is Singapore, 12 is Japan, and China is in 13. And here's the whopper. After Estonia at 14, number 15 is Saudi Arabia. So look at that list. Really look at it. The top 15 safest countries in the world are almost exclusively in Asia and the Middle East, and 6 of the top 15 are in the Gulf. Unfortunately, and needless to say, countries like Germany, Italy, Sweden, and United Kingdom are ranked significantly lower, all in the 80s. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out for yourself. The United Kingdom, one of the world's most developed economies, one of the oldest democracies, ranks 89th out of 162 for safety. It's behind Thailand, behind Indonesia, behind the Philippines. So the countries that most Western media portrays as developing, risky, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, China, Indonesia, they're actually statistically and reported over millions of data points safer than these countries in the West. And when you start comparing it to the UAE, Singapore, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, and China, they're literally the safest places on earth compared to Europe and the Americas. So I know what you're thinking. Of course, these countries are safe. They all have really strict laws, and they'll cut off your hand if you do anything wrong. They don't have the same freedoms that we have in the West. And there is an element, a very small element of truth in that. But this is where I want to challenge your comfortable assumption. There are 2 kinds of freedom that we're talking about here. One is political freedom, free speech, free press, democratic participation. And the other is your freedom to live your day-to-day life unbothered by the people around you. The freedom to walk the streets at night, leave your phone or computer on the cafe and not worry that it's going to be stolen. I'm not making a political argument here, and I'm not saying that one is objectively better than the other. I'm just pointing out that there is a serious trade-off. I know that my freedom of speech in Dubai and Abu Dhabi in the UAE is not comparable to London or San Francisco. But I can also take this video with my phone and wallet on the table and not worry that someone's going to suddenly run up to me and steal it from underneath me and I'm going to be chasing after them. It is super safe and it's very, very calm. And there's a similar trend across Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific. So if you look at China, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, they all have an element of this in common. But there's also this social cohesion and perhaps most importantly, a culture of and political unwillingness to normalize crime. If there's crime that happens, it gets dealt with and swiftly. When crime happens in these societies, it's treated as a failure to be addressed, not an inevitable feature of urban life to be tolerated and just accepted. And that mindset matters. So as you've probably guessed from my accent, if you're just tuning in, I'm from London. I'm from the UK. That's where I grew up. And I want to draw attention specifically to the UK right now. So here's something to blow your mind. According to the Office of National Statistics, the ONS, in the year, 12-month period, leading up to March 2025, police in England and Wales, so remember that's not including Scotland and Northern Ireland, recorded approximately 53,000 offences involving a knife or sharp instrument. 53,000 in 1 year. And around half of those happen in my hometown, or should I say my old hometown of London. What really bothers me is that the police just don't seem to care. I remember when I was personally assaulted and I called the police and they literally rolled their eyes at me when I suggested that they, God forbid, go chase after the people who had walked away. That's the kind of atmosphere we have in London, where criminals literally walk away because they know the police can't be bothered to catch them. I can tell you definitively, if this had happened in Abu Dhabi or Singapore, they would have legged it and probably tried to leave the country, and the police still would have caught them. And the unfortunate reality is that in places like London, there are places you don't even walk after dark, and you pretty much have a low level of vigilance pretty much everywhere you go. You're always looking over your shoulder, attaching your computer bag or your phone to your leg if you're sitting in a cafe or something like that. And people will say, well, London's a big city. What do you expect? That's just how urban areas are. Compare it to America's cities, that's even worse. They've got guns. So this just has to stop. This is not how it has to be, and it shouldn't be this way. Singapore, Tokyo, Jakarta. Jakarta is the biggest city in the world, and it feels safer than London. Crime is not an inevitable consequence of urbanization. It's a policy choice. It's an enforcement choice, and it's a societal choice about what you're willing to tolerate. The UK has made just one set of choices. Singapore, UAE, Japan have made different choices, and the results speak for themselves. So I want to make a factual observation, and that is Europe and America does not equal safe. And Asia certainly does not equal risky. And this is supported by an ample body of data. Sweden's crime index, for example, puts it on par with the Philippines. That's a stunning sentence to say out loud, but it's what the data shows. Safety is not about geography or GDP per capita. It's about governance. It's about enforcement. It's about societal cohesion and the rule of law, and whether society itself is willing to treat crime as something inevitable or something to be dealt with. Okay, so one thing you're going to ask is, well, hang on, if this is just crowdsourced reporting and these are statistics coming out of China or the UAE, are they really reliable? So the answer is take it with a pinch, a small pinch of salt. But the reality is that even if there is a 20% discounting of this, the difference between, say, the UAE or Singapore or Japan or South Korea or China or Taiwan, and comparing that to the UK or America, they're still significantly safer. And honestly, all you got to do is just go there, walk around, and you will feel the difference. Look, the data is imperfect, but the direction is unambiguous, and the magnitude of the difference is too large to just dismiss. So I'd be doing a disservice if I pretend that all of Southeast Asia is uniformly safe. Myanmar has a civil war. Cambodia has certain issues that it's dealing with to do with corruption and scam centers and all that. And there are still genuine concerns in the southern parts of the Philippines, like Mindanao. But for expats and travelers, the real risks in Southeast Asia are pretty minor. You're talking petty theft, maybe tourist scams. They're annoying, but they're not really dangerous. You might just get screwed out of a few $100s. As for violent crime against foreigners, it's genuinely rare, particularly if you're in a place like Singapore or Hong Kong. So how do I advise clients that are looking to relocate to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, or APAC? Well, if you're looking for top tier safety, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and most of the Gulf, including Saudi Arabia, offer unparalleled security. If you're looking for, say, 80% of the safety, but still that hustle and bustle of Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia are all relatively safe, and you really are unlikely to have any problems there. Just think of it as good safety, but you need a little bit of street smarts. So I want to end this video with what really matters. This video isn't really about comparing countries. It's about challenging what we've come to accept as normal, particularly from a Western lens. In London, people discuss which areas to avoid at night. In Singapore, no one really has that conversation because there aren't really any bad areas. The worst area you're going to find is Geylang, and honestly, it is totally safe to walk at night. And compare this to places like Tokyo and Singapore, where 8-year-olds and even younger ride the subway and walk to school alone without their parents. The thing I want to ask is, when did we decide that this was acceptable? When did we collectively agree that a certain level of crime is just the price of living in a free society? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. The countries at the top of the safety rankings just don't accept it. They've decided that safety of ordinary people, the ability to walk home without fear, to leave your door unlocked, and to let your children play outside is not negotiable. They've decided that strong policing, consistent enforcing, and strict consequences aren't just authoritarian overreach. They're a baseline requirement for a functioning society. And before anyone says, oh, but there's systems, and the reality is you can't argue with the results. If your city has tens of thousands of knife crimes per year and another city of a similar size has essentially zero, something is wrong. And that's not an accident. That is a governmental choice. And the reality is that once you've lived in a place where safety is the default, like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or Singapore, it's not something you can easily give up. And it's very hard to just go back to accepting anything less. So if this challenges your assumptions, good. That was the point. If you've lived in Southeast Asia or the Gulf and that matches your expectations, I want to hear from you in the comments. And if you know someone who thinks Asia is dangerous and risky and Europe is the safe haven, share this with them and send them the data. Save this video if you're researching relocation. The numbers matter and the lived experience matters more. I'm Alexander. I'm the founder of Rumavi. We help people navigate property and relocation across Southeast Asia because we believe the best decisions are made with the best information, not assumptions, not outdated narrative, but information and lived experience. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and subscribe for more.